ET Infra, we are in a conversation with Mr. Rahul Mithal, Chairman and Managing Director at RITES Ltd, one of India's foremost engineering consultancy company. With him, we will explore how the company's business is panning out, both domestically and internationally, their recent engagement in the Middle East, as well as the development of the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, popularly known as the IMEC, and what are the future plans of the company, both domestically as well as the potential for export orders. So thank you, Mr. Mithal, for joining us out here at ET Infra at our virtual interaction. Now, would like to know from you, we have now entered into a new financial year. For RITES, if you could give us a brief, what you're looking forward to. Your consultancy business is the marquee one for you. For this financial year, FY26, how things are panning out at RITES?
Yes, so you see, the year that went by was the toughest year for RITES because two, three major challenges which were there: the export revenue, the change scenario in the quality assurance business of ours. So we knew that the 24-25 is going to be the toughest year for us. And the aim in 24-25 was to, be as close as possible to the previous FY, tackle these challenges suitably, and get a sufficient order book across my sectors of consultancy so that the next FY sees a substantial growth. And in all these efforts, whether it's the export stream of business, whether it is diversification in the QA business, whether it is getting an all-time high order book at the end of FY25, we are now geared up to see a substantial growth. In fact, we are aspiring to see a 20% growth in the top line in FY26.
Right. You touched upon, your highest order book. I really would like to know, what contributed to that. Is it something that, RITES in terms of strategy, in terms of order acquisition? Did you, undertake something new? How this highest order book did come about? What would you attribute it to?
You see, in the last 2-3 years, and with every passing quarter, the dynamics of competition across all our 13 verticals, whether it is rail infra, highways, airports, metros, etc., have been constantly changing, both in the domestic sector as well as in the export sector. They were all global tenders, so the competition has been increasing, and we had to completely revisit our strategy of bidding, our strategy of finding what is the right margins that we operate on. Each of these verticals have different levels of competition, so different levels of margin to arrive at an overall blended margin. And this required a lot of market intelligence and revisiting our strategy, so as to have the right balance, as I said, in getting aggressive orders as well as maintaining a semblance of a appreciable level of margins.
True, true. But then how do you see FY26 overall going out? You are heavily engaged with the railway sector as well, and you have diversified into other years over the years. But in terms of the market projects, we have the Gati Shakti going on full steam. The railway modernization is on, that is also has been the focus area. So for RITES, what will stand out in FY26?
So you see, we had put our target two immediate milestones about a year back. One was becoming a one order a day company. We were hovering around about 0.65, 0.7 in the previous FY. We also wanted to break the hiatus of no export order for about 4 years. Yes. And we managed to achieve both these in the year that went by. So the last 5 trailing quarters, we've got one export order a quarter. In the last complete year, we've maintained a strike rate of one order a calendar day. So whether it is all the sectors, whether it is rail infra, whether it is highways, whether it is airports, ports. So as you see the large capex push across all these sectors, we have been able to leverage this, and we are confident that we'll be able to maintain the strike rate of one order a day in the coming FY also.
On export orders itself, what would be your biggest exposure in terms of a region or a country?
So right now, the year ended with an export order book of 1360 crores. The biggest order in that is about 900 crores for 200 coaches for Bangladesh Railway. This was a global tender funded by EIB. There was a tough competition and we won that order. So that's the largest order, followed by the order by Mozambique Railways, which is for about 300 odd crores for 10 locomotives. And there are other orders from South Africa.
True. Sir, a little bit of query on the Bangladesh order. It is very known to all of us that the country is going a little bit of uncertainty, political uncertainty. How do you feel in terms of your exposure to Bangladesh? Is it ring fenced? Are you sure that this orders that you have from Bangladesh is as of secure now?
Yes, I think the way the continuous meetings and collaboration with Bangladesh Railway is happening, there are about 7 types of coaches in these 200 coaches, and there have been continuous exchange of the designs, proposed designs, their requirement. They are in a very short of coaches, and the funding is in place because it's an EIB funded tender. It was a global EIB funded tender, as I said. So the continuous deliberations are on. We are nearly at the stage of finalizing all the designs in the coming maximum 1 or 2 months, and then the prototype manufacture will start. So I see that by latter part of the year, with the prototypes getting manufactured and getting approved, we are aiming that at the latter part of the year, the delivery should start.
Thank you for that. My next question be around your agreement with rather an MOU with DP World on the logistics infrastructure. Wanted to understand the broad framework of that MOU. I understand that DP World is a much more bigger logistics player, especially out there if you go to the Middle East. How's that sort of relationship going to pan out in the coming years?
So you see, we did a strategic shift in the last year. Traditionally, our international operations were primarily in the African geographies, the Southeast Asian geographies, and then we started diversifying into the Latin American geography also. And then we also last year diversified into the Middle East geography. So we had an MOU with DP World, we signed an MOU with Etihad Rail, and we signed an MOU with AD Ports, the Abu Dhabi Ports. All of these are major players in their sectors, whether it is ports, whether it is logistics services, whether it is rail services. And moving forward, collaboration, whether it is in the virtual trade corridor of the IMEC, whether it is the logistic initiatives, multimodal hubs. We have already started getting a small order in Jordan from Etihad Rail. So I see we've already opened an office in UAE, in Abu Dhabi. So moving forward, I see this collaboration in Middle East with all these entities being very favorable to us and in our strategy of expanding our global footprint.
True. If you could elaborate a little bit on the order in Jordan, the nature of it.
It's a small order to begin with. It's a consultancy order for the rail activities, the maintenance and the rail infra activities happening in Jordan. So that's the beginning of our presence there. And I'm sure moving forward, this has got huge potential.
The reason why I asked for this, engagement in Jordan, and you also alluded that Middle East is going to be important for you, because the IMEC corridor, I'm quite sure, is in the making. You are one of the major stakeholders in the railways. I'm quite sure you would be more aware in terms of the government's policy thinking in terms of how the IMEC will pan out. If you could give us a little bit of brief, what you are seeing, because we did, enunciate or declare the IMEC very recently when all the, concerned countries, the heads of the concerned countries sort of, declared the formation of the IMEC. Going forward, like what are the key projects or how IMEC is sort of now being framed out? Because it's a way long corridor right from India to Europe.
So you see the start is being made on the India-UAE leg of the IMEC corridor. And the first start is calling it a virtual trade corridor. So from the ports on the Indian side, whether it is JN Port or Kandla, and other ports on the western side, and the ports on the UAE side, whether it is, Khalifa or Fujairah or Jebel Ali, other ports on the UAE side, what is being envisaged now is the start of the virtual trade corridor. So what is virtual trade corridor? You see, shipment is already happening. Containers and other shipments are already moving. On the virtual trade corridor, what is being envisaged is, and we've started working on that on behalf of the Ministry of Shipping, which is the unveiling of the concept of Maitri, which is a digital interface. It is the master application for international trade and regulatory interface. It will be a digital interface for all, facilitating the transactions, all the transactions for exporters, importers, and other stakeholders. So work on this, all the portals on the India side and all the portals on the UAE side, this will be an interface for them to interface with each other. And this is the start, which has huge potential as the corridor, as the physical movement, as the physical construction on the balanced corridor moves forward. This virtual trade corridor will have a huge potential of extending further down the corridor.
Right. If I may say, probably focusing on the digital connectivity among the ports first and then laying the physical infrastructure around it.
Yes.
Sir, if I'm not wrong, the African continent has been traditionally, a very important market for you and have done well as well. You did talk about the Mozambique order as well. But going forward, how's the African market will pan out now that you start looking into other areas as well, Middle East? But how does the African market, will it hold its significance, and what are the future prospects?
Yes, you see, African continent has traditionally been a very important geography for us, and whether it is export of rolling stock or consultancy in various areas of infrastructure, and I see, except after the first 2-3 years post COVID, when the economies were coming to terms with the stabilizing, most of the countries now are very actively engaging and wanting our experience to, again work with them, whether it is Mozambique, whether it is South Africa, whether it is Angola, Zimbabwe. So a lot of countries are engaging with us. We are constantly giving them the various options which they have, whether it is, as I said, export of rolling stock or consultancy in brownfield, greenfield, rail infra projects, highway projects, ports, etc., multimodal hubs. So all areas, and I see that Africa, except as I said, for a gap of about 2-3 years post-COVID, will continue to remain a very important geography for us.
Your take on in terms of the port potential in Africa, especially on the East Africa, coastline and all, because there have been, I think, Dar es Salaam was there for sort of, building up that port or redeveloping of that port. What is the potential in terms of the port infrastructure you're looking at Africa?
So you see, we have a very strong port vertical, and which has operated in India across a number of ports. And as we speak, we are working on a large number of ports in India also, whether it is Paradip, Visakhapatnam, Machilipatnam, etc. So with this, as I said, in Africa, especially as you mentioned, South Africa, and other geographies, Mozambique, etc. I see using this potential of ours, experience of ours, to tap the, whether it is studies on augmentation of brownfield ports, augmentation of their capacities, the berthing capacities, whether it is we are working now on shipbuilding concepts. So all these areas, I see, as I said, that also to be a very interesting area which we will be working on, and we are working on in the African geography.
Right. So you touched upon the shipbuilding part. Now we are giving a massive boost in terms of the bringing that shipbuilding our own in-house. The policy framework is almost out. There would be shipbuilding clusters. Where does rights come into all of this?
So interestingly, we are working, this is, as you said, it's a huge potential for the shipbuilding industry. There's a huge push for that. And we are working very, very closely with the Ministry of Shipping for, detailed plans, the models, the infrastructure required for setting up these shipbuilding facilities in various ports. So this is a huge area for us, and I see that this is, as I said, is potential not only in the domestic sector, but as we build up our credentials more and more in this, even for international consultancy.
True. But are you earmarking any sort of export target or a revenue target specifically for shipbuilding now that the government is giving a very renewed push for it?
We are currently preparing plans for what are the ideal infra and the ideal models required for setting up this shipbuilding in a big way. So I think definitely the way the push is there, and as I said, the potential somewhere down the line, I think this has huge potential overseas also.
I would like to come to the domestic part of it. Railways, obviously, that's your forte in the domestic one. Wanted to understand FY26 or even the coming 2 3 years on the railways, which will be your more focus area in terms of projects. The FCCL has plans of expanding into more corridors. Whether you are involved in it, are those things being explored? So where are we on those?
So you see, there are two very key areas which we are tapping the growth in the railway sector. One is new corridors, and whether it is freight corridors or passenger corridors, semi-high speed corridors, high speed corridors. So all the detailed surveys, the alignment surveys, the feasibility surveys, that's a very core strength of RITES, and it has been associated with all the traditional corridors, whether it is freight corridors or passenger corridors. So we are working on a large number of studies and feasibility studies for various corridors. That's one very important area for us. Another very important area is our core strength in bridges and tunnel design. So that is again a very niche area of ours, and in fact the USBRL project also we have done more than 20-25 bridges. So that's again a very important area, and these two we will continue to tap the potential. Another very important area is the quality assurance, where we are now trying to induct AI and future technology to improve the kind of quality assurance work, inspection work that we do for railways. So we've introduced AI last year in the inspection of rails in Bhilai. So it's called the AI Vistar initiative, which is again seeing a lot of results in the past few months, and it's got a huge potential to expand in not only the domestic market, but again we want to push it in as a core strength of ours internationally.
I mean, I love the fact that you touched upon the tunneling aspect, and you did say that it's a niche sort of area, and how there more expertise needs to be gathered for it in India. Because I had a conversation with Manoranjan Parida, who is a director at CRRI, the Road Research Institute, and he also talked about the fact that in India, when it comes to the tunneling, I think because since it's from the road sector, we don't have that really niche expertise that is available out there in the West and the developed countries, and how there is a need. Because he also alluded to the fact that CIR would also be now concentrating more in terms of bringing the up-to-date and advanced tunneling technology in India. Now that we go to the Himalayan frontiers and start making these tunnels, and I think, but in your opinion, what India needs to do, because it is a fact, it's been out there in public, we have had some accidents in terms of the tunnels. What is it that we need to do in terms of whether it is technology, whether in terms of adoption of technique itself, to being a very robust tunneling infrastructure in the country?
So I can say that let's talk about what the experience which RITES has. For example, we have done tunnels. We have been associated with the Pir Panjal tunnel, with the Atal tunnel. So to my mind, yes, there is always a scope for getting more and more, technology, the latest technology in tunnels. But I tend to kind of disagree with the fact that we are in India, we do not have enough or sufficient tunnel technology knowledge or expertise. Yes, as I said, there is definitely scope, because considering, as you correctly said, the huge amount of potential which is available and the requirement which is there for tunneling, etc., there is definitely a scope to keep on honing the available latest worldwide available technologies. But to my mind, we have quite a large experience, not only at RITES but other organizations also in the tunneling technology. So, well, we need to build up further on that. And that's, in fact, as I said, that's one of our very core strength, both tunnel engineering and bridge engineering. And we have a very core team of experienced engineers who have been working and building up on the repository of experience that we have, as also trying to imbibe the latest technologies.
Right. So my last few questions, this is, bookkeeping questions. If you can, any guidance if you could give in terms of if you are expecting where the revenue are going to be for FY26 or even a margin target you're looking at?
Yes. So as I said, having ended the year with the highest ever order book and being confident of pushing for improved execution, we are aspiring for a top line growth of about 20% YOY in FY26. The margins are, as you see the breakup of our order book, it is more than 50% on a competitive basis. Even international orders, the order which I mentioned, in fact, the Bangladesh export order, the Mozambique export order were all on competitive basis. So the erstwhile margins, which you maybe saw 3, 4, 5 years back, whether individual stream wise or an overall blended margin, those will be difficult to maintain. But having seen the year, this year being the toughest year, we are expecting that EBITDA margins would settle down around about 20% on an overall annual basis, and PAT margins about 15 to 16% on an annual basis. There may be variations in a particular quarter depending on the mix of revenue realization in that particular quarter. But in overall basis, we expect that to be about 20% EBITDA and about 15 to 16% PAT margins.
Sure, sir. All the best. In a very difficult year, you have come out with good, export orders, really sort of pulled the company through it. So it's really heartening to know that. Wanted to really also, I've been told that you're also celebrating your 51st anniversary. So what does it mean for RITES?
You see, where we started and where we are today, we were the first railway PSU. And very early on, in the first decade itself, we didn't stop at just being a railway PSU. So the first metros, we were part of DMRC, the first expressways, we were part of the initial expressways, Mumbai-Pune Expressway we were part of. We started exporting as early as 93, 94. So we have been a part of diversification. And today we can say with full confidence that as we have completed 50 years at RITES, we shape what shapes lives. So we are the only consultancy company in India, whether in the government space or a private space, which has all areas of infrastructure consultancy except oil and natural gas under one roof. And having achieved the milestone of being a one order a day company, as we completed 50 years, we are raring to go. And this mantra of being future ready and not just more of the same, but much more of the new. That's the mantra that we rely on. And as I said, we shape what shapes lives.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. All the best to you and your company. It was lovely having this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you.